All right. Hi, Varun. So,
Hello.
can we just start by introducing you a little bit, just a little bit about your work?
All right. Hi to everyone who's watching this. I'm Varun Bhardwaj. I am a PhD scholar from Department of Botany, University of Delhi, and my research mostly concerns with the crop known as safflower, which is an oilseed crop.
Yeah.
And we are currently in the process of generating genomic and genetic resources in safflower. Besides research, I also like to read as much as I can, aside from the academic papers, and I have a proclivity towards uh, well, scientific ideas, philosophical ideas, and drawing patterns in general everyday to day life. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you so much. Although I don't understand much about science, so I I sincerely want to, just apologize that I don't understand much about your work, but definitely I've understood that it's something related to crops, some plants and
Yeah,
some crops, right? Okay.
yeah.
Okay, we got that
So,
right. Great.
Yeah, I'm actually a botanist by training. I adore plants and all aspects of life in general. But yeah, so I mean, while choosing streams, I definitely chose plants because then I felt a certain inclination towards them.
All right. And that is very much related to the discussion that we're going to have today. And so, just to introduce the topic again and share my initial ideas and why, I came upon this topic. So, what I wanted to, discuss with you today is about connectivity. And I've called it the science of connectivity because I'm hoping that you will be able to bring in that scientific element into this discussion by explaining to us, how, you know, the scientific part of this whole process is very simple actually. It's not very complicated, but like somehow we make it complicated, right? So what I want to start with is that post COVID, post the pandemic, I think as human species, we've really understood the value of connecting with people and also connecting with the environment, with the nature. Because, like me, I am sure there are a lot of people who have resorted to gardening as a form of therapy during the pandemic because you're at home and you, like, apart from work, people who are working, you don't really have anything to do, and suddenly you're not meeting people, you're not having any form of physical touch or connection with people, which is the most basic human form of connectivity, right? You meet face to face, you hug or you touch, you do that handshake with your friend, and that itself makes you feel so human, so normal. That was missing. And a lot of people started gardening, started taking care of plants. And I read somewhere that the sale of plants online just went crazily, into it was great, because suddenly everyone wanted to have a garden, everybody wanted to have a little plant on their room, in on their table in their room. And what fascinated me was that suddenly I was feeling a connection with something which is not responding back to me, right? Like, if I am talking to you, you're responding back to me. If I have a dog, if I have a cat, he or she is hugging me. There's some form of response, some form of, you know, um, connection that is forming on the basis of stimulus and response, right? You're saying something, the person, that whoever it is responding back. But with plants, there's no response. There's no talking
Oh,
that's happening.
I I
I-
don't think I don't think I agree with that. But okay, I mean,
Okay.
certainly there's not an immediate response, but
Okay.
yeah, there are responses. I mean, please go on. I
No,
think
no.
I'll add my 2 cents later on.
No, no, what I meant was there's no verbal communication happening. Okay, let's just say that. There's no verbal
Okay.
communication happening. Or the plant is not coming and hugging. But still I felt the connection, right? I'm not
Mhm.
denying it. So how do you define, okay, not define that, but how do you explain that? What is this connection that you feel with something so natural? It's very organic for a person to feel connected to the environment, to the nature. But on what basis? I can't explain it to anyone what it makes me feel, right? I'm sure you agree at least to that part. Then it makes you feel something which is not very easy to describe.
Well, yeah. I mean, to start off, I think we need to define what a connection is. I mean, connections can
Okay.
be made with pretty much, I mean, any two objects or any two particles in the universe. They can be
Hmm.
connected. But
Hmm.
the thing is that what you're probably referring to is some sort of a meaningful connection, which has holds some meaning to us. So on that part, I'd like to say that human beings as a species have shared a very intimate connection with plants through millennia. I mean, ever since we started
Hmm.
domesticating them for our own basic needs, for food, for fodder,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
for fuel in later ages, we've always found that bond to
Hmm.
be something that is worth sustain. I mean, that sustains us and also sort of sustains them. But what you well, you pointed out that it doesn't respond in the way a normal pet does. In
Hmm.
most people, when they think that they have a pet, they mostly think in terms of cats and dogs, who can immediately respond to some sort of affection. Well,
Right.
plants do also respond in their own way. Coming from a strictly agronomical point of view, there are so I work also as a field scientist, and we have plants growing in a research station near Bavana, and you know from the very first day, that is the day of sowing, I've basically watched them grow over the last few months, and now they're about my height. So
Oh.
this is also a sort of response, and you sort of feel responsible for them.
Hmm.
After a certain point of time, I know, maybe treat them something akin to your own children. So you do take care of them.
Yes.
You prevent
Yeah.
any sort of insect attack, or any sort of, you prevent them. You protect them from harm. You protect them from diseases. You
Hmm.
cover them from birds. You basically take care of them like the
Like a
children.
child, no? It's like
And so,
this
yeah,
nurturing a child.
and so there's your connection. You
Hmm.
are basically forming a bond with supposedly inanimate object, although I'd say that plants also do response to external stimuli. They
Hmm.
adjust their leaf angles and their
Hmm.
direction of growth in response to certain in sunlight, or even nutrients. So
Yeah.
plants
Yeah.
do move. It's just on their own slow pace, and they do respond, but in
Hmm.
their own way. It's just that we
Hmm.
are only beginning to understand what kind of language they speak,
Yeah.
and there's, I think, much more to learn from plants. I think than we may have thought
You know,
before.
just from the point that you just said that they have their own pace. I'll come back to the human connectivity a little later, but what it made me think about was that maybe you will be able to explain it in a better way. um how do plants connect with each other? Because I'm sure as a species, uh not just plants, but even the trees and the nature, everything that is there, they must have some form of connection with their own species. So, is it something that we can observe, or as scientists, maybe you have been able to study or observe, or is it something like we can't know?
Okay, so well, yeah, plants do communicate with each other, and not just plants of, a single species, as one
Hmm.
might, think, but also plants of different species. They also communicate with each other, although through different
Okay.
ways. So, a very simple experiment to, investigate this fact is that, there are certain chemicals and there are certain proteins that are produced by plants in response to herbivory. Herbivory is very simple. You have an animal, particularly some sort of a rodent or some kind of a big animal that,
Hmm.
eats specifically plants, and you have buildup of chemicals and those proteins within the plant that is being eaten. That's pretty straightforward. The plant will, try to defend itself. It cannot move, it cannot go anywhere, it cannot, actively
Right.
try to discourage the predator, but it will do whatever it can do to prevent it from being eaten in entirety. It might be some sort of a chemical that produces a bad taste. It might be some sort of chemical that, it's some proteins that actually make the plant less digestible. They might, give stomachache to the animal that is eating it. But the curious fact is that, these sort of chemicals are also produced in plants that are not directly eating, that were not eaten directly. That is to say that plants that are growing in the vicinity of the plant that is being attacked also produce these chemicals. So this was a very curious sort of observation that, scientists made, and upon further investigation, they found out that, the plant that is getting eaten up by the herbivore will release some sort of volatile substances from, the leaves or whatever exposed areas it has, to warn the plants that are growing nearby, that there is a herbivore nearby, and,
So it's
I'm
like
being
a
eaten. It's
like an
alarm
alert.
system.
Yeah, like an
Yeah,
alarm
it's like,
system. Yeah.
like an alarm system, and that would, probably alert the plants nearby,
Hmm.
of a
Hmm.
potential predator attack. So
Yeah.
yeah, plants do communicate, and this is just one of the many examples that we've come across so far. Plants are also, connected via their root systems. They have this
Hmm.
extensive fibrous and, taproot systems that go deep beneath the soils, and it's just that, between the roots of two different plants, you have these fungal myceliae that, sort of uh, connect the different plants, from even plants of different species together. And, in a way, they are able to, act like a small railroad network of, for nutrients and for other minerals, and
Yeah.
uh, to basically enhance the growth and, well, enhance the overall general survival of
I I
plants.
remember I remember once we were having this discussion before, and you were mentioning that if there are two trees that you see of the same species, but they are like a little far away from each other, it is quite possible that their roots are somehow connected under the soil. Like they will find some way to reach to each other and form that connection. And sometimes if there is one type of a plant or one type of a flower in a region, suddenly after some time you'll see that there are more such plants growing around it. Like suddenly there's a whole
Yeah.
community that comes up. And it's so fascinating that what you mentioned before, that they can't move, they can't change the place where they are. And it's sort of like it's like it's like an analogy for a situation for us, that sometimes you're put into a situation and you can't do anything about it. You're there. You can't move out of there. You can't break out of that situation. The only thing you can do is just keep going, keep growing like that plant.
Growing, yeah, keep growing, yeah.
Just use
Well,
whatever resources you have. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, of course. I mean, that is probably the best take-home message from what we can learn from plants is that we should never stop growing. And
Hmm.
there might be challenges, there might be problems that you know um, have us in really in the grips of it. And what we must remember is that there is always a way around it, and that there
Yeah.
are ways in which we can overcome that challenge. Um, so
Hmm.
in plant systems, we have, backups of backups of backups. That's what we say, as plant scientists, that
Backups.
yeah, backups, because plants, for the most part, cannot move, as
Hmm.
is very firmly established. But what
Right.
they can do is have a backup of a backup of a backup. So in any case, there's a problem, you have a solution A, and then you have, for
B.
if solution A fails, there's a solution B. Then if that fails, solution C,
C.
D, E, F, and so
Right.
on. So, and I think that is the beauty of the evolutionary process that has forged the life that we see today on Earth. That whatever you see around you is sort of like a success story of their lineage of whatever survives must have fought through all the hardships that the nature had thrown at it
Hmm.
since prehistoric times. And that's a beautiful message in there, that you should keep growing.
Yes, like I mean, it's like that saying, no, that you once you hit that rock bottom, there's no way down. You have to move up from there onwards, right? And I think one of the reasons why subconsciously so many people went back to gardening, went back to plants, or just nature in general during that difficult situation, that difficult time of pandemic, was because you felt that you needed that motivation, that you have to keep going, because there were, like, no offense, but there were people dropping like mosquito every day. We were hearing like so many people are passing away, and so many people are leaving us, and it was like the worst nightmare just came true, right? These the things that you just read on history, in your history books, right? You read on the internet, and you read that the influenza happened, and this the Spanish flu happened, and this was people were running around, and I think this was even worse than that. And suddenly, what I was mentioning before about that human connect, that of meeting face to face, connecting through that human touch, um, we reached a point where even watching someone's video on that pain that they're going through, or just hearing that information that someone else has passed away, someone else lost the father or the mother, you instantly felt connected to that person. You instantly felt connected as a species, right? You felt that pain. And I think for the first time, I, as a sociologist also, who believes firmly that, human beings are social beings, I really felt it, and, saw a live situation where you, as a human, felt that connection with somebody who is like so many, maybe
Thousands
countries,
of miles away.
yeah,
Yeah.
thousands and miles away, and suddenly you're feeling bad, and you feel as if it's happening to you, right? It's just like you're the one who's going through that pain, right? And then resorting back to gardening, and just going out for a walk in the park seemed to be such a big deal, that wow, uh, this is this is the environment that I want. I don't want that materialistic house. I don't want that internet. Like I've read so many people going through a detox phase कि हमको और इंस्टाग्राम नहीं देखना है हमको और यूट्यूब पे नहीं जाना है. We're bored of these web series. We're bored of watching uh you know people on TikTok. We want to go back to the park. And I have, like, you know, you get what I'm trying to say, right? Like,
Yeah, I think, well, on the part of where you can sort of empathize with, people who are thousands of miles away, I think what brings human beings together is that commonality of experience. That, when you can sort of put yourself in, the other person's shoes, although those shoes might be, well, so as to speak, thousands of
yeah.
miles away, um, it's that, you've probably know somebody, or you are somebody
Mm,
who's been in that situation before. And it's that common talking point that brings people together, and binds them in a way that it's truly remarkable. you know and I think that has sort of helped shape, to a large extent, the societies that we currently inhabit. It's the common experiences, like, for example, that there are certain stages of every human being's life. There's the birth, then there's childhood, adolescence, and then there's a marriage phase, and then you move on to your middle ages, and then finally the old
old
age.
age.
Yeah, so I think there are, in each of these stages of life, there are people who can sort of connect with one another, because they have common experiences. Maybe they grew up in a similar time frame, the
Mm,
80s, the 70s, or the 60s, and they had available to them these shared memories of some incidences that happened, the history that
mm,
unfolded between,
mm,
in front of their very eyes. And I think, for a large scale event like a pandemic such as this, there are a lot of commonalities, when it comes to experiences that people have gone through. For
right.
instance, we all were, for most part of, let's say, 2020, and even for some months of 2021, under strict lockdown conditions. And we were really confined to our homes,
Homes,
where
right.
the scenery didn't change much, from day to day. It was, for most people, work from home, those who could
Yeah.
manage it. And for few others that were bound to step out of their houses for their livelihoods, it was, well, proper protection, proper sanitation, and maintenance of distance. I still remember that slogan, "छह गज की दूरी है,
Duri,
देश
zaruri.
दूरी है जरूरी,"
हाँ.
something along those lines. So, I mean, we all, whenever we used to call our loved ones, we heard that caller tone. That there was once, Amitabh Bachchan that came up, and then some other person took over.
Mm,
So that's
mm,
all common shared experiences. And once that was over, and once people started stepping out of their houses, again, they had the privilege of stepping out into their lawns and their parks, and sort of enjoying or taking in the fresh breath of nature
right.
once again.
Right.
And I think that's what pulled them. I think made the connection that they shared, or maybe they had forgotten they shared, with nature once again very prominent. I think contrast is a tricky thing, isn't it? The beauty lies in the contrast. So once once you're faced with confinement within your own homely home,
Mm,
the heart sort of yearns to move out and
move
experience
out.
the world that lies outside.
Yep.